What do you do when the world you know crumbles before your eyes? How do you deal with the cheating that creeps into the very depths of your family life? He decided to track her down and uncover the surprising truth. He didn't know that his wife was cheating on him with not one, not two, but as many as 3 lovers at work. The secrets and intrigues of the workplace come into play, putting not only their marriage, but their own fate on the line. He will stop at nothing to uncover the truth while fate plays with their lives in impressive dramas. What happens when the war of love meets the war at work? Prepare yourself for startling tales of infidelity that will astound you. Are you ready to find out what fate awaits them? Immerse yourself in amazing tales of infidelity, dramas of fate. Tired of forgiving, cheating on myself. Cheating for me wife. I'm 46. Loved one, too. We have 2 children, grown girls now. Both of them are over 20. I'm a suspicious person. I feel a trick and a lie almost always. Life has been like that. There was a lot of meanness and deceit. Hence a keen sense of smell, but at the same time, I am still a trusting person. I want so much to believe in the decency of people. It all started very, very many years ago. The children were very young. We gathered with friends on a fishing trip. Naturally, as usual, we drank, hoo-ha, campfire, nature, goodness, in short. And then my childhood friend tells me that your wife is walking out on you. He worked for them as a driver, and she was an accountant. He was taking their entire office to the countryside, and my wife told him, "You did not see me. I did not see you." Everything swam in front of my eyes. I got into a fight with him and walked home from the fishing trip. There was a showdown next. My wife convinced me that everyone had talked, and she wasn't there alone. The whole office was there. Went to the house of a friend, who lives across the street by the way, and punched him in the face. I kind of believed it, calmed down, although the worm had already settled in. A year, maybe 2, passed, and one day on the day of the forest worker they had a picnic again. The same car came to pick her up. The driver is different, with a chief accountant. The chief accountant said from the doorstep, "Natasha, get ready, everybody is waiting." Then I looked out of the room, and this phrase follows, "But you can also take your husband." I might not have gone, but I really wanted to see this crowd. But we arrived at their holiday. There are masters, foreman, chief accountant, director with his mistress, and the director's friend, the head of the Office of Public Utilities. When we arrived, then all were already under a good fly. Somewhere we were 40 minutes late, I think, and the car was sent for mine separately. As I said, everyone was already on their merry way and greeted, as they are supposed to, under a given person, except a friend of the director. He visited for a minute or 2 and left, and then I had another bad feeling. The question to his wife did not give anything. The answer was expected. How do I know what he had in mind? He took off, and the worm after that grew. I lost my peace after this corporate event, but time passed and the resentment subsided. A few more years have passed, the leadership has changed, and the company itself has changed its name, and many things have changed in life. And then, one day, a man who works with her comes to me and says the same words that a few years ago said his childhood friend, but I cut him off and replied. I said it all in front of her. When she comes back from the sea, the 3 of us can sit together and make eye contact. But it did not work out. Now, I do not remember for what reasons, but the fact hurt that I was a leaper, that I was presented as such, and then there were some calls on the home, then only appeared cell phones, and not everyone had them. Good morning, Natalia Ivanovna. Bon appetit, Natalia Ivanovna. And so on several times. When asked what the hell is this, the answer is, nothing is just a careful people. And when my mother made her a comment about the calls, the answer was the following. What do you? They are still children. We were then over 30, and these 2 catching himself under 23 to 25 years. And so, somehow my old acquaintance, even before Army knew her, witnesses on wedding were his classmate. She works with mine and declares to me that mine is cheating me with one of these Lovelaces, that she herself saw how they kissed between stacks of planks and heard conversation of these two cables, that they say everything was good in Natalia Ivanovna, her figure and face, only her tits were not big enough. What was going on in my soul was hard to describe. Of course I started with my wife, but as you understand, a complete rejection of everything. I told her about it. You should have seen her face, the look in her eyes. I understood and that something was wrong, and maybe it was all true. The second stage was a showdown with this fader. He was lucky that I did not find him the first week. I would have fucking killed him. I waited outside the house, looked for him on the way home from work. No, as in water has dropped. Found out that he lives right in the office, and to a friend with whom he lives, does not go yet. I rang the doorbell at the production plant, and he was working the second shift. I asked him who fitter was, and the answer was, "What do you want?" and so on. I started beating him up. He wanted to run away, but I caught him and pushed him in the car and took him home. I beat him on the way home, and for some reason he started begging my wife for forgiveness, and I beat him from time to time. My wife screams, "What are you doing for something?" And that's it, something else there. I completely blew my mind. I bait him with a dog. I had 2 Staffords at that moment. My wife blissed. I put him in the car, take him to the store, take a liter of vodka, pour it on his face, make him wash, drink, hit him again. He kneels down, and people around who are coming from work, drunkards near the store, and he is on his knees. The next day, I wanted to talk to the second womanizer, but he ran away. And then the wolf instinct kicked in. He ran away, and I caught up with him, took their company car, and went to the bus station and caught him. He apologizes for his loose tongue, blah, blah, blah. Before that he bragged that until he fucks the whole office he won't quit. He kneels down. I pull out his tongue, pull out a knife. I say, "I'll cut your fucking tongue out." In short, they both quit. My wife and I resisted. There was nothing at all, and he said so to justify his cowardice. I believed for the sake of the children, we moved on, but of course, I became jealous and even more suspicious. I walked like a narcissist. I did not want anything at all. The business slowly came to naught. A few more years passed. We worked together. But this office slowly gave up. Mine went to work at a school. I still floundered in the old shag. Worked there, here, bought a building, wanted to do greenhouses. It did not work out. Grant not given. Decided to open a bar. Started repairs. Took a loan. Sold the car. From morning to evening went. My wife works at school until 16. When I will be late. A rare case where my wife left work early. Call it 4:30. Said, well, at least without 10. As there was no need to go home early, I look at the clock 15 to 20 early. I think I will be home and back. Passing by the school on the intersection, I look right, flying SUV, and from the store opposite comes my wife. I stop. She crosses the road. The Jeep turns around at the same time, without stopping. But the driver of the Jeep follows my wife with a look, and we meet with him. I recognize him. Once before me, back then I saw him. With her, they were walking hand in hand. I began to make inquiries about him. The man so-so, rotten, but rich, registered in classmates under a female name, rubbed into his friends, began to communicate on behalf of Oksana. He communicated willingly, even with interest, a womanizer and fornicator. Mistresses change every 3 years, began to insist on a meeting with intimacy. It is like Oksana. Informs him that tomorrow he goes on a business trip to the next city. On the way back, we'll stop by his girlfriend, and then maybe we will meet. He wants to know who the girlfriend is. I tell him the surname of my girlfriend. Well, how could you guess my wife's surname? He answers nothing, and answered only in 2 days. In the settlement, I do not live since 1998. There is no one. I do not remember, and such under such and such a surname, even distorted a little, although he exactly wrote. I do not remember, But at this point, I already knew that his brother lived here, at our place, that he goes hunting. And I find photos on the internet, where he is in our village, fresh. I find out that mine with his friend before me was still friends. I find him on the internet, too. I find him also on the internet. I look for his classmates. They are looking for a date. He too has lost his memory. He does not remember her. I wonder how it is. Is there universal amnesia? Chance brings me to another candidate for the groom, also before me. I ask, "Do you remember?" "Yes," he says. "I do not remember." But it was before you, and nothing happened. These two he remembers because they beat him up for her. And one said that she was his woman. I keep thinking, how can you forget something that was in a mature age? Nerves gave out, told his wife, proved nothing. There are few who turn around. It may even be a coincidence, and she does not remember him. Although during a conversation later said that she saw him with his wife in some year. He ordered windows from them at the firm, friends, and what do you think? Advise me. I do not know what to do next, dear servants. I wonder, here is a very difficult choice, to put him 10 out of 10 on the scale of the deer already known to us all, or some unit, because look, like a deer lazy, well the facts on its face, and he enters busy with his wife, prodigal by the way, but on the other hand, decides the question, like a real man, how to be in this case. I do not know. Advise you what you think in general about the story. And now on to the second story. In order not to miss the next story, subscribe to the channel under this video, and do not forget to give likes and share your opinion in the comments. Dear listeners, today, as always, the story will be most interesting. What you do when trust breaks and your heart breaks into a million pieces. How do we deal with the infidelity that creeps into the most intimate corners of our lives? He discovered his wife's infidelity with his friend, right in his own car. Loyalties are crumbling and friendships are on the verge of breaking down. Get ready for amazing tales of infidelity that will change the way you think about love and drama. He's looking for answers, she's looking for forgiveness. When fate plays its trump cards, putting not only their marriage on the line, but also their own souls. Are you ready to delve into mysteries and face traumas that are beyond imagination? Dive into amazing stories of wife cheating. We've been married for 4.5 years, but there's one major problem. No sex life at all. My wife and I last had sex in March 2014, and to this day, no intercourse. I am 28, my wife is 26 years old. We have a child together, a son. Basically, both are healthy, young people. In theory, sex is a mandatory part of family life, and especially in these years should not be a problem for sure. I am fine with fantasy, and with potency all in the best way, but at the same time, no sex. The problems began after the birth of the child. Then she also said that she had a strong postpartum psychological trauma, and in general, she was afraid of gynecologists since childhood. In simple terms, she doesn't like the moan of penetration. Time passed and she started to blame it on me. Like, the problem in me began to shun me, afraid to walk past me naked, for example from the shower. Always closes the bathroom with an internal lock when she washes. Afraid to be with me in the bath, even dressed in a swimsuit. Before we got married, everything was great with sex life. I didn't have this kind of variety in sex with any of my past partners. In my past, single life. But after we got married, my beloved changed drastically in this regard, and after the birth of my son, sex became a problem. I had never cheated on my wife. I don't even want to think about cheating. That's the way I was brought up. My father is ex-military. Sermons about early libido leading to personal degradation and all that. I consider myself a model seed man. I put all my pay in the house. I don't even have a stash. I bought my wife a German car. Inexpensive. I do not deny her anything to the best of my ability, and they are available. Bling, outfits, perfume. iPhone and changed it like gloves. There were flowers every week. Our house was hard to imagine without flowers. until she started throwing fresh bouquets in the trash. Despite all the charms, the scandals and blowing my brains out were constant, always dissatisfied with everything. I myself am very jealous, but my jealousy was not so violent until a few incidents in front of my eyes. My wife's friend and her husband came to visit us. They were drinking hard liquor, whiskey drinkers, and I haven't had a drink in over 3 years or so. Watched sober. The tipsy girls left and returned dressed as lecherous maids. They wore black stockings, stilettos, thongs, and bonnets over their heads. They began to twist their bottoms in front of our faces. In the end, my friend and her husband were alone in our room on the couch. My wife and I were in the bedroom, but no sex happened. My wife started to change into her home clothes, and we had a fight. Then the same thing happened again sometime later in the bathhouse, which we visited with the same friends of my wife. But then they decided to surprise us with the same scheme. Our wives came out of the locker room wearing bangs, high-heeled shoes, and bathing suits, saying the phrase, "You wanted a bath with the biters? Get this." A friend of my wife's was doing that, and after she and her husband had it, we scattered to our corners. But I never had sex with mine. She just started to scandalize. After these two incidents, I became indignant at my wife's behavior. Like, in front of another man's husband, not ashamed to twist the ass. At home, I did not arrange such a thing, but she explained it to me this way. She did it to support her friend, to diversify their sex life. Once again, during a joint drinking party with those friends, very tipsy, and her friend's husband dropped this unfortunate suggestion, to become us swingers, arguing that his wife has small breasts and mine are a size 4 after giving birth, and he has never had sex with such a specimen of a girl. He dreams of experiencing it, and in a way that doesn't hurt anyone. We should switch wives. To which I just burst into tears. Also once we're out in nature, and he jokingly offered my wife to his brother. My brother was just lost to speech then, and then said we were in trouble over our heads. As time went by, my wife's sex life began to be a complete mess. She started seeing more unmarried girlfriends, going to restaurants and dance bars without me. Several times, there were late-night calls to her cell phone from drunken strangers. I happened to talk to one, and he threatened to come gut me, calling me a devil, beating me with questions. "Who are you anyway?" My wife swore she didn't know who it was that called. But with each passing day, our sex life went to zero. Last New Year's Eve, my drunk wife went striptease dancing with my friend, sitting on top of him in the process. She kissed him in his chest and put her hand in his underpants in front of me. My friend was just shocked and numbed at that moment, then threw her out of himself. And after a while he apologized to me. He just wanted to make a joke and act out a striptease, no bad thoughts, and did not expect such a reaction from my wife. He only wanted to take off his shirt, and we were dragging his jeans off him. The whole company of friends saw the whole thing, and they were shocked. They developed a bad attitude toward my wife. But the last straw in the sea of misunderstanding was a situation last fall that drove me to crime. My wife was drinking at her friend's, and I was home alone. Then I met up with my friends, who were also teetotalers. We were drinking tea, and mine called, asking me to come get her. The time was late. We got into my car and drove off. When we got there, we waited for 40 minutes. My wife, drunk, came out with her friend and her friend's husband to the car. My friend demanded that I take the bastards away, my friends. She called them such a bad word and said she wouldn't get in the car with them. And I had 2 sober friends with me. My wife asked me to take them, her and her friend and her husband, somewhere with loud music, like a riverbank. To which I agreed on the condition that we take my friends to the neighborhood where we live. On the way in the car, my friend elbowed me in the right hand and pointed to the rearview mirror. In it, I couldn't see my wife, sitting on my friend's husband's lap, kissing him with a hickey in the back seat of the car, and the girlfriend, his wife, who was sitting next to him in the seat and kind of doesn't see anything. also confirmed by my other friends sitting in the back third. My friends did not understand at all where and whose wife in this situation. We didn't make it to the river. As I was dropping my friends off in the neighborhood, the girls turned on the music loudly and started dancing in the street, while my husband, my friends, hid silently to the side. At that moment, an unfamiliar car pulled up, melting out the Camry with some unfamiliar guys. The young men decided to meet the dancing girls at the expense of our car. My friend had a traumatic gun with him. I was blown away with indignation and shot that Toyota. In the end, the frightened boys left the place on a car with holes in it. And we made our feet on ours too. Everything happened lightning fast. I did not realize what I had done at all. After what happened, my wife filed for divorce, explaining that she was living with a psychopath as well as a jealous paranoid and a jerk. All the kissing they did with her friend's husband, she denies and has no recollection of. She says she was drunk. She doesn't remember any of that. And it's all their friendly jokes. The guys and herders went to the police. But the problem was solved this way. From me repair their car and 2 iPhones. They took the statement. The divorce didn't work out either. Decided to keep the marriage because of the child. Wife took the application for divorce from the justice of the peace in a week. Now we live as roommates. We even sleep in separate rooms. She made conditions. No hint of sex. Also conditions that I must not drink alcohol. She lives on my property. We have a large apartment in a new building. We also have our own house and a summer house. Thanks to my parents, I have an American SUV. She has a German small car. Everything seems to be fine financially, but no family. She swore to me that she never cheated on me either. But she let me have a mistress, or visit a woman of easy virtue once a month, as long as I don't pester her with sex. What to do? Friends, what advice do we have for today's author? What to do? Well, probably first go to the workshop, in the very private house or at the cottage, wherever there is one. Get a saw and cut off the horns. I give today's hero not a 10 out of 10, but probably a 20 on our beloved scale. A bold 20. Yes, do you agree with me? If so, write in the comments that yes or no. Okay, also explain why. Since the author is such an interesting character, here you go. For drunk women dancing by the roadside, not in the best way. So I understand, quite possibly Frank, a car pulled up to meet them. He shot her with a gun. And before that there for what, 10 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes, in his car his wife was kissed by another man. What? What kind of story is that? I don't understand. What kind of reindeer and cuckold do you have to be to put up with that? Friends, let's give him our wishes and advice in the comments. I ask you to refrain from Slaz Island. Somehow still try to disguise your aggression. I would be grateful to you for that. I also want to thank you for listening to our stories, subscribe to the channel, and give your likes and comments. It really helps the channel in its development. Thank you.